Hello everyone. First of all, thank you for all the wonderful wishes, and Team IS Baba wish you all a very happy and a successful life ahead. So welcome to session 14 of IS Baba's rapid revision series of 500 high probable topics for prelims 2020. I'm Preetham Reddy and I'll be dealing with 20 important topics in today's session which are very crucial for prelims examination this year. So first topic is Colombo Declaration on Sustainable Nitrogen Management. So in 2019, UNEP's Colombo Declaration on Sustainable Nitrogen Management was held. The major aim was to halve nitrogen waste by 2030. And you might be knowing that nitrogen is critical element for building structures of living organisms and an essential element for the survival of all living things. At the same time, nitrogen overuse has negative impacts on the planet biodiversity, and also nitrogen is a contributor to the climate crisis. So the Sustainable Nitrogen Management Resolution was adopted during the 2019 UNEA, that is United Nations Environment Assembly, held at UNEP headquarters in Nairobi, Kenya. Okay, and technical support is provided from International Nitrogen Management System, which is a joint activity of the UNEP, that is United Nations Environment Program, and International Nitrogen Initiative, and these are supported by GEF, that is Global Environment Facility. So technical support is provided from INMS, that is International Nitrogen Management System, and this International Nitrogen Initiative. So let's see International Nitrogen Initiative. See, already we dealt with topic number 179, which deals with South Asian Nitrogen Hub, and also in 2019 United Nations Environment Assembly, India piloted resolutions on two important global environment issues, one relating to the single-use plastics and another was sustainable nitrogen management. That's why it becomes important to read about sustainable nitrogen management and any other initiatives related to this nitrogen. So International Nitrogen Initiative is an international program which was set up in 2003 under sponsorship of Scientific Committee on Problems of the Environment, that is SCOPE. Okay, so Scientific Committee on Problems of the Environment, SCOPE, and also from International Biosphere. So International Geosphere and Biosphere Program. Okay, so SCOPE is Scientific Committee on Problems of the Environment, and IGBP is International Geosphere and Biosphere Program. The major aims of this International Nitrogen Initiative is to optimize nitrogen's beneficial role in sustainable food production and to minimize nitrogen's negative effect on human health and environment resulting from food and energy production. So especially resulting from food and energy production. So next important topic, so you should be knowing basics, okay, regarding nitrogen cycle, reactive nitrogen, and also 5 main processes in this nitrogen cycle. So you might be knowing the basic nitrogen is a constituent of amino acids, proteins, hormones, chlorophylls, and many of the vitamins, right? And our atmosphere almost like contains nearly 79% of the nitrogen, but it cannot be used directly by the majority of the living organisms. And you know that in nature, like usually lightning and ultraviolet radiation, they provide enough energy to convert nitrogen into nitrogen oxides. Okay, so know about nitrogen cycle in your basic NCERT books or any other books which you are referring. So there are 5 important processes, that is nitrogen fixation, nitrification, assimilation, ammonification, denitrification or denitrification. Okay, so nitrogen fixation, so usually here conversion of gaseous nitrogen into ammonia. So this is what is taking place. So nitrogen which is in gaseous form, it is getting converted into ammonia. How it happens? Usually by atmospheric fixation, that is through lightning or volcanic activity, okay, and industrial fixation or bacterial fixation. So you might have read about some bacteria like Azotobacter, cyanobacteria. So those bacteria are important in nitrogen fixation. So next important thing is nitrification, where the process by which ammonia is converted into nitrates. So usually ammonia or ammonium ions, they are converted into nitrates. So again in nitrification, some soil bacteria like nitrobacter, they can convert nitrate into nitrites. And assimilation, here the nitrogen fixed by plants is converted into organic molecules such as proteins, DNA, RNA, etc. And ammonification, that is living organisms produce some nitrogenous waste products such as urea and uric acid. So dead matter and animal waste, they contain urea and uric acid, so they will be converted into ammonia or ammonium ions. So denitrification, that is conversion of nitrates back into gaseous nitrogen. So this is called denitrification. So generally denitrification is reverse of nitrogen fixation. Okay. So denitrifying bacteria, like which live deep in soil near the water table, so usually which live in oxygen free medium, they are important to convert this nitrates into nitrogen. Example, Pseudomonas and like Thiobacillus. So you can read about that. Okay. Next important topic is UNFCCC. So United Nation Framework on Convention for Climate Change. So COP25 was held in 2019, Madrid, Spain. Okay. So key outcomes and decisions are important. The first thing was India called upon more countries to join the International Solar Alliance. So India called for speedier expansion of International Solar Alliance, and the major aim is to reduce dependence on fossil fuels, you might be knowing. And there was this ministerial plenary on the theme of solar and the SIDS, that is making the sunshine brighter. So during this ministerial plenary, India called for this speedier expansion of International Solar Alliance. So third point is very important, because the major aim or the prime objective of this COP25 was to complete the rule book to the 2015 Paris Agreement. Okay. So that will become effective in 2020. So this rule book becomes effective in 2020, and it will replace the 1997 Kyoto Protocol. Okay. So 1997 Kyoto Protocol will come to an end in 2020. And other key decisions are whatever the pre-2020 gaps were there. So before 2020, whatever the implementation and ambition gaps were there, those things were discussed upon. And Article 6, which is very important under the Paris Agreement, that is carbon markets. Okay. So COP25 dealt with this carbon markets. Article 4 of the Paris Agreement, which deals with INDCs, right, or intended national determined contributions, right. So regarding that, already UPSC has asked question on regarding INDC. And enhanced transparency framework, Warsaw International Mechanism for Loss and Damage Associated with Climate Change Impacts. Simple, they can ask Warsaw International Mechanism was under which particular COP. Okay. Adaptation related matters, where India has been stressing on parity between mitigation and adaptation, technology development and transfer. So these are some of the key decisions you might have revised. So India and UNFCCC. So India's role was majorly related to the question of carbon markets, that is article number 6 under the Paris Agreement. So India questioned the role of like carbon markets, and India emphasized for the transition of clean development mechanism credits earned during Kyoto Protocol. So India emphasized that the CDM credits, that is clean development mechanism credits, which were earned under this Kyoto Protocol, should be transferred to Paris Agreement. So this is important. And India also emphasizes on principle of equity and common but differentiated responsibility, and also respective capabilities. So initially only CBDR was there, but India is emphasizing on the respective capabilities also. So principle of equity and common but differentiated responsibility and respective capabilities. And during COP25, India had a pavilion which celebrated 150 years of Mahatma. So you can expect a question in prelims related to Mahatma Gandhi, or even in mains. Okay. And we will see what were the India's INDCs, that is intended nationally determined contributions. So already UPSC asked this question. So to improve the emission intensity of its GDP by 33 to 35% by 2030, below 2005 levels, to increase the share of non-fossil fuels based electricity to 40% by 2030, to enhance its forest cover, right, which will observe 2.5 to 3 billion tons of carbon dioxide by 2030. So try to remember this goal. So we'll see this Article 6 under the Paris Agreement, which deals with carbon markets. So which deals with carbon markets. Okay. So to finalize, so majorly this COP25 was held to finalize the rule book, right, and also to finalize the rules on how countries can reduce their emissions using international carbon markets. So you might be knowing about, you should know about carbon markets and how this international carbon markets work. Okay, so we'll be dealing with that one. So Article 66, as I said, it deals with carbon pricing also. So carbon markets and carbon pricing. So how does this international carbon market work? So countries that struggle to meet their emission reduction targets, right? So countries which are not able to meet their emission reduction targets under their national climatic plans or their nationally determined contributions. So they can purchase emission reductions from other nations that have already cut their emissions more than the amount they had pledged. Okay. So whoever has completed, whichever country has completed their goals, so whoever has cut their emissions more than the amount they had pledged, so they can sell. Okay. And the other countries can buy. So if the rules are structured appropriately, the result can be a win-win situation for everyone because both the countries meet their climatic conditions or commitments, and the overachiever is financially rewarded also. Okay, for going above and beyond whatever the emission cuts, and finance is provided to the country. So this generates the emission reductions, and the world's get a step close to avoiding catastrophic climate change. So remember, countries which cannot meet their emission reduction targets, they can buy from other countries which have already met and they have some extra credits. So next important topic is key protocols dealing with this UNFCCC. Okay, so some basics. So 1997 Kyoto Protocol you have to know, since it is coming to end in 2020. So this protocol is based on the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities. And this Kyoto Protocol, it had put obligation on developed countries to reduce emissions. Okay, so to reduce their current emissions, so it had put obligation on the developed countries. And the protocol's first commitment period, it started in 2008 and ended in 2012. Okay. After this 2012, Doha Amendment to Protocol was done, and second commitment started after 2012. Okay, so one important aspect regarding Kyoto Protocol is the carbon offsetting scheme. So carbon offsetting scheme, that is clean development mechanism. So this is the major scheme by this Kyoto Protocol. The first major carbon offsetting scheme, that is UN's Clean Development Mechanism, was set up under this Kyoto Protocol. So we'll see what is this Clean Development Mechanism. So Article 12 of the Kyoto Protocol dealt with Clean Development Mechanism. So here carbon offsetting, as I said, it allows a country to help reach its own emission reduction targets by funding emission reductions in another country. Okay, say for example, developed countries like US and Europe, so we'll assume that they want to reduce their emission targets, but they are not able to do. So now they can help other developing or least developed countries to reduce their emission targets or emission reduction targets. So these people can fund and also transfer technology. Okay, so they can earn some certified emission reduction credits out of those. Okay, so this is what the carbon offsetting or the clean development mechanism focused upon. So Doha Amendment to Kyoto Protocol. So this was, as I said, it is the second commitment period which started in 2012. As of February 2020, 137 states have been accepted this particular Doha Amendment to the Kyoto Protocol, and in order to Doha Amendment to come into force, it requires acceptance of 144 states. Right now it is just 137 states. So remember these important protocols. So next important topic is deoxygenation of the oceans. Okay. So COP25 was called as Blue COP. You would have read in articles Blue COP. So you know that the levels of oxygen in oceans fell by around 2% from 1960 to 2010. So like there have been studies which is released by IUCN. So during this Madrid climate conference, this IUCN said that the level of oxygen in oceans fell by around 2% from 1960 to 2010. And it also, the report highlighted regarding the impacts. So it said it is affecting the planetary cycling of elements such as nitrogen and phosphorus. As well as since oceans are losing oxygen, they are becoming more acidic. Okay, and IUCN report also talked about osteoporosis of the sea. So it is a kind of disease which usually some species like shellfish have their like shells degraded or dissolved. Okay, due to low oxygen in oceans are turning into acidic, and this is dissolving or degrading the shells of certain species, and fish have been dying in masses. And there was also a report that oceans have absorbed 93% of the heat. Okay, thus contributing to greenhouse gas emission. Okay, and Blue COP is a way to convey the close links between the health of the climate and health of the ocean. So COP25 dealt with this Blue COP, and COP25 also talked about deoxygenation of the oceans, that is oxygen which is getting reduced in ocean. Okay, and IPCC recently released a special report this year. So IPCC, that is Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, it released a special report which was focusing on ocean and the cryosphere in a changing climate. Okay, so it discussed regarding the impacts of climate change on the ocean, and also whatever implications it will be having, especially on low lying areas and coastal communities. So these things are important. So next important topic is UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration. Okay, so UN General Assembly, it declared 2021 to 2030 as Decade of Ecosystem Restoration. So you have to remember this. So during the high level meeting to Bonn Challenge 2018, El Salvador, it announced the plans to propose 2021 to 2030 as UN Decade for Ecosystem Restoration. So already we saw whatever the targets India has pledged. So it has increased it to 26 million hectares. So India wants to restore their land, degraded land, to 26 million hectares by 2030. Okay, so land restoration, that is ecosystem restoration, is important this year. And United Nations Decade on Biodiversity 2011 to 2020 comes to an end. Okay, so now the next 2021 to 2030 will focus on ecosystem restoration. So aim of this UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration will be to massively scale up the restoration of degraded and destroyed ecosystem, and also ecosystem restoration will increase life below water and life on land. So SDG goal 14 and SDG goal 15. Okay, so next important topic is global partnership on forest and landscape restoration. See, based on this landscape restoration or ecosystem restoration, there are some initiatives, and UPSC has like small initiatives in previous year question papers. So you have to know some recent initiatives dealing with these things. So global partnership on forest and landscape restoration. So this initiative, the major goal is to restore the world's lost and degraded forest and their surrounding landscape. And this global partnership on forest and landscape restoration, they respond directly to the Bonn Challenge. Okay, and this GPFLR, it was initiated in 2003 by a small consortium of like-minded organizations and spearheaded by IUCN and WWF. The major functions, as I said, it is for restoration. So they gather knowledge on restoration, they facilitate restoration assessments, they support bond challenge commitments. Next important topic is the restoration initiative. So this year this particular initiative is very important because recently it was launched and it is a collaboration between three global environment facility agencies. So GEF you might be knowing, right? So global environment facility agencies, that is UNEP, IUCN and FAO of UN. Okay, so the major goal of this restoration initiative is to overcome existing barriers to restoration and also to restore degraded landscapes. So major goal is to overcome existing barriers to restoration and to restore degraded landscapes and also to support bond challenge. So earlier this was important, now for our exam this is very important. And this TRI, that is the restoration initiative, it unites 10 Asian and African countries. Okay, so next important topic is Bioversity International. So not biodiversity, it's Bioversity International. Okay, so this Bioversity International is a global research for development organization and it delivers scientific evidence, management practices and policy options to use and safeguard agricultural and tree biodiversity to attain some sustainable global food and nutrition security. So majorly it is a global R&D organization where it is focusing on food and nutritional security. Okay, so this particular Bioversity International, it got its international status when establishment agreement conferred this particular international status on this Bioversity International. Okay, and this establishment agreement has been signed by many governments including India. So you can read about establishment agreement. I didn't get much substance regarding it. Next important topic is Landscape for People, Food and Nature initiative. So it is an international collaborative effort to foster cross-sectional dialogue and action to support the widespread practice of integrated agricultural landscape approaches. See, here also it is about integrating agriculture and tree biodiversity to attain sustainable food and nutritional security. So it is focusing on sustainable food and nutritional security, whereas Landscapes for People, Food and Nature initiative, here also it is talking about supporting widespread practice of integrated agricultural landscape approaches. Okay, so you have to remember this one, practice of integrated agricultural landscape approaches. And this Landscape for People, Food and Nature initiative, it is led by a coalition of leading agriculture and environment organizations which include Bioversity International, Conservation International, FAO and International Fund for Agriculture Development. So next important topic is International Ecosystem Management Partnership. So it is the first UN Environment Collaborating Center in South and for the South. So again this particular thing can be important, this particular topic. International Ecosystem Management Partnership, it is the first UN Environment Collaborating Center in South and for the South, and it is a joint venture between United Nations Environment and Chinese Academy of Sciences. Okay, and this particular partnership, it is supported by government of China. Next important topic is Global Environment Monitoring System for Air, that is GEMS. So this GEMS is an initiative by United Nations Environment Program, and it arose from the recommendation of the United Nations Conference on the Human Environment, which was held in Stockholm in 1972. This GEMS, so there is a GEMS Program Activity Center at UNEP headquarters, which I discussed that time, Nairobi, Kenya. Okay, so this GEMS Program Activity Center, it coordinates to monitor air quality. Okay, so the major pillars of this GEMS monitoring system is 5 important interrelated programs, that is climate related monitoring, monitoring of long range transport of pollutants, health related monitoring, especially concerned with pollutants and pollutional effects, and ocean monitoring, and terrestrial renewable resource monitoring. Okay, so know about GEMS, again important because lot of articles dealing with air pollution. Next important topic, Clean Seas campaign. We already dealt with deoxygenization or Blue COP. We also dealt with Blue Beach, right, initiative, and now Clean Seas campaign. So UN Environment launched Clean Seas campaign in 2017 to fight against marine pollution. Marine plastic pollution. So it is an initiative to fight against marine plastic pollution. This Clean Seas campaign, it targets the production and consumption of non-recoverable and single-use plastic. Okay, so it targets the production and consumption of non-recoverable and single-use plastic, and the campaign contributes to the goals of the Global Partnership on Marine Litter. So this particular Global Partnership on Marine Litter is important. Simple question can be asked, like this is a part of, so it was launched during UN Conference on Sustainable Development Rio Plus 20 in June 2012. See, questions UPSC has asked, whatever held in UN Conference on Sustainable Development Rio Plus 20 during those times, there are questions in previous papers, you can check it. So this year Global Partnership on Marine Litter is important. So it was launched at the UN Conference on Sustainable Development Rio Plus 20 in June 2012, and it was in response to a request in Manila Declaration. Okay, due to the request during the Manila Declaration, which is actually an outcome of this global program of action for protection of the marine environment from land-based activities. So try to remember Global Partnership on Marine Litter. It is a part of, it was launched at UN Conference on Sustainable Development, and it is an outcome due to the request during the Manila Declaration. And this Manila Declaration was in turn an outcome of this global program of action for the protection of the marine environment from land-based activities. Okay. So next important topic is Global Program of Action for the Protection of the Marine Environment for Land-Based Activities. Okay, so I said here, so this particular program, it is a unique intergovernmental mechanism to counter the issue of land-based pollution. Okay, so it is a unique intergovernmental mechanism to counter the issue of land-based pollution, and it was launched in 2015 by United Nations Environment Program. And this GPA, that is Global Program of Action, is the only global intergovernmental mechanism which is directly addressing connectivity between terrestrial, freshwater, coastal, marine ecosystem. That's why this particular program is important. Global Program of Action for the Protection of Marine Environment from Land-Based Activities. So even those plastic waste, everything is included. Okay. So next important topic, Wild for Life campaign. Wild for Life is UN Environment's campaign against illegal trade in wildlife. So this campaign majorly aims to protect 9 new marine species. See, Wild for Life, it is collaborating with the United Nations Environment's campaign against plastic pollution also, especially in our oceans. So we saw that one. So UN is campaign against plastic pollution in our ocean, that is Clean Seas. So this Wild for Life is collaborating with this Clean Seas campaign to launch a series of 9 new marine species dependent on our oceans. Okay, so these 9 new species, this Wild for Life campaign, it is collaborating with Clean Seas campaign, and it is telling they are impacted by plastic waste or plastic pollution. So those 9 new marine species which are included or listed by this Wild for Life campaign is mako shark, penguin, seahorse, manta ray, staghorn coral, dugong, polar bear, sperm whale, and thresher shark. See, no need to go through all these animals or species. Okay, anyway, there are different other species which we will be dealing in future session. Okay, so final topic of the day is India State of the Forest Report 2019. So let's see about this particular report. So it is a biennial publication of Forest Survey of India, and it assesses the forest and tree cover. So this part is very important because it assesses the forest and tree cover, bamboo resources, carbon stock, and forest fires. Okay, so even forest fires have been assessed in this particular report. And one important aspect is 2019 report. For the first time, it assesses the qualitative nature of the forest cover. Okay, so for the first time, the report is assessing the qualitative nature of the forest cover, which includes listing its biodiversity and the type of plants and trees which are found. Okay, and it also created for the first time a national forest inventory on produce from forests. So these 2 points are very crucial. So Indian State of Forest Report, for the first time, it assessed the qualitative nature of forest cover, and it created a national forest inventory for the forest for the first time on produce from forests. Okay, so we'll see what are the key findings of this particular Indian State of Forest Report. So India's forest cover has increased by almost like a rise of 0.56%. So first important point is India's forest cover. So India's forest cover has increased by 0.56%, that is 3976 square kilometer compared to 2017. So when compared to 2017, we saw that Indian forest cover has increased by 0.56%, and tree cover, that is tree patches of size less than 1 hectares outside the recorded forest areas, have also shown a rise. Okay, so it is important to note that India's total forest and tree cover now stands at 80 million hectares, roughly 24.5%. Okay, and we saw an increase of tree cover almost like 2.89%. And India's total forest and tree cover now stands at 80.73 million hectares, and which is roughly 24.5% of its geographical area. Okay, and we had targeted for 33%. So still we have to reach that particular target of 33, which India had committed to rise by 2030. Okay, so right now India's forest cover plus tree cover, both including, it is 24.56%, and India had committed a target of 33% by 2030. So right now we are in 24.5%. And next important statistics or facts what we have to know is the highest increase in forest cover is in Karnataka. Okay, so we can see here, so Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh and Kerala, so they have shown states with high forest cover. So highest forest cover increase has happened in 3 states and highest in Karnataka. And there is an increase in forest tree cover and also mangrove cover. However, there is a decrease in forest cover which is recorded in recorded forest areas. Okay, so recorded forest areas, forest cover in recorded forest areas have decreased. However, forest and tree cover and mangrove covers have been increased outside the recorded forest areas. And in tribal districts, the forest cover is almost like 37.54%, which is about the target what India aims, and in hilly districts the forest cover is already 40.30%. Okay, and among the states, Gujarat has the largest area of wetlands. So among the states, Gujarat have largest area of wetlands, and highest dependence on forest for fuel load is from Maharashtra. Okay, and you can see here states with largest forest cover. Okay, so states which have largest forest cover is Madhya Pradesh, Arunachal Pradesh, and states like Odisha, Chhattisgarh, and Maharashtra. So especially tribal belt are showing good forest cover. And states which showed gain in forest cover includes 3 southern states, that is Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, and Kerala. And states which showed a decline in forest cover was Arunachal Pradesh and Manipur and Mizoram. So this shows that some developmental activities are taking place in northeast. That's why the forest cover has declined. Okay, this is what the government has provided in the reports. So these are some of the important things. So out of the total target of 33% by 2030, India is telling that we have already met 24.5%, that is 80.73 million hectares. Okay, know this fact also, that the maximum percentage, that is 76.9%, is covered by non-forest cover, and 9.4% by moderately dense forests, and 9.3% by open forests, and 3% by very dense, and 1.4% by scrubs. Okay, so these are some of the important points. And also one important content which is given in the report is 21.4% of forest cover is extremely fire prone. Okay, so do revise India's state of the forest report 2019. So try to remember India's forest cover. So forest cover of India is right now 21.67%. So just forest cover is 21.67%, whereas forest cover plus tree cover. So tree cover is, just a minute. So forest cover is 21.67% and tree cover is 2.89%, and both clubbed together is 24.5%, which is written here. Okay, so try to know about these important facts. It can be in a prelim statements. So these are the 20 important topics which are very crucial. So I know like lot of facts and lot of initiatives and international initiatives. Try to read and revise more. It will help in the prelims examination. Thank you.